Now, when we talk about Vajrayana Buddhism, the topic which we are going to introduce during this course is Vajrayana is a branch within the Mahayana Buddhism. So general aim and purpose of all Buddhist teaching is to end the suffering and its cause. The Buddha said, I said two things: existence of suffering and ending of it. How to end the suffering. And all of these schools do not differ in that objectives, and attainment of that goal is done, achieved by Buddhahood, and the path that leads you to that is the Dharma. So the Buddhahood is the Buddha, so that's why Buddha is the refuge. In order to achieve the Buddhahood, you have to follow the Dharma, the way of the Dharma. The way of Dharma is that which gives you a method and skills and techniques how to bring the shift and transformation both in your karma and affliction and so on. So the Dharma, if you're following both in meditation or in mindfulness and conscientiousness, prayer or whatever you do, you're using the Dharma to bring this change into your mentality. Like we were doing chanting of the Buddha's biography and meditating and receiving the grace, blessings, and that chanting and meditating itself is a Dharma practice, because we're chanting and we're reflecting on the contents of the meaning, and then we try to transform our mind and into a form of meditation, not thinking of anything but try to be in the presence of the light of the enlightened one, and then fuse our mind in receiving the grace so that our difficulties drop away and our wonderful goodness all manifests in us. So these kind of practices are all Dharma practices. In order for the person to practice Dharma, they must study first. They must study the Dharma. After they study, they mustn't accept what they've heard as a literal truth. They must contemplate. They must investigate of their validity, of their usefulness, of their logicality, of their practicality. You've got to see any of this. So therefore, this teaching says you've got to test, examine, verify through your own experiences. So the Dharma that you have heard and read and know the concepts and the terminology is called scriptural Dharma. Scriptural Dharma is not the actual refuge. Actual refuge of the Dharma is the realizational refuge, realizational Dharma. You have to verify, test, experiment, and see of the actual benefit to you, in practical benefit. When they have proven quite a few times benefit to you, how you go about your way of thinking, by thinking dharmically, how does it change your circumstances, how difficulty becomes so easy to let go, and when you have benefited yourself from the Dharma, Dharma restores your dignity in sanity. In the end, if that doesn't happen, you haven't practiced yet. You've studied it, you have read it, but you haven't practiced it. Dharma makes you yourself self-reliable. You're self-reliant, and in the sense that you're gifted to make the U-turn, make the turn that is safe, away from darkness to light, from light to lighter, and so on. And then you can see you're moving away from the forces of evil or sadness or hurt or selfishness. You can see ever since you heard Dharma, you contemplated Dharma, you recited Dharma, you read the Dharma, you talked Dharma, you thought Dharma, you're actually moving away from the evils of selfishness, blame, resentment, greed, hatred. You can see you are moving away from them by virtue of the study and contemplation you're doing. Then you're convinced that this is helping you. So it is actually changing you. It has made you to change, and their habits has dropped away. You just have to soak there overnight, or at least, at least. So we have to be a bit patient to stay in the bucket overnight. with the nappy sand and all that. So when you practice Dharma, you've got to persevere overnight or weekend or one session or cold Tuesday nights or whatever. You just persevere, and slowly it will soak away. That's like the rough piece of rock when you put into the little brook, and then a couple of weeks later you pick up the little piece of rock. It's all smoothened. It's just like that. Yeah, you've been going to the Tuesday night classes, and then you've been thinking about it in your everyday life, and it has sort of made you to become softer in many areas of life, and the knowledge has empowered you. It has totally given you the power to change and shift. And then your rough edges have all been gone away, It's like you've been smoothened. And as a result of this gentleness in your speech, in your thoughts, in your mind, and then you are even practicing them. You're able to practicing them. Even when some people does the opposite, you just feel so compassionate. You couldn't say anything different. But you don't want to practice renunciation there. You want to practice them befriending there, Sometimes you might practice renunciation because you don't want to see wish I didn't see this person. Or hurt this person. But sometimes you find all of a sudden loving kindness is much stronger, and you can shield yourself by loving kindness. You don't become vulnerable to their offense. You are not so offendable anymore, but instead you have this compassionate, look with which you are not so vulnerable and offendable. This is called refuge in Buddhism. You feel really safer as you're in your thoughts, in your perception, in your visual perception, audio perception, You don't trust your hearing anymore. I think he said that, but I must be wrong. He didn't mean that. I'm sure he didn't mean that. Yeah, but amazing. You have this amazing benefit of doubt that you must be hearing the wrong thing as usual. And then therefore you don't become so fundamentalist in thinking your perception will correct. So you have this little bit of gap between you and your perception, you and your feelings. You don't instantly become your feelings. You don't instantly become a perception, and hence no reactions, let alone overreactions. When that's happening, you are practicing both renunciation. You're renouncing your bad reaction. Good. You're befriending the object. Mahayana practice. You're actually kind to the object. You are hard on the cause of suffering. Your aversion, your aggression. Your aggression is renounced. Your object of love or compassion is made closer. So the difference between you and them is your aggression and misunderstanding. That is renounced. The person is not renounced, but instead brought with a greater degree of love and compassion. So these two is very most important harmony there is. So Theravada Mahayana is beautiful practices. Vajrayana is slightly additional, just to make the Mahayana practice. Mahayana practice itself is divided into two, called a causal Mahayana and resultant Mahayana. So it is Vajrayana that is called resultant Mahayana. Why it's called resultant Mahayana is that usually causal Mahayanas, they practice generosity as a cause of happiness. They practice tolerance as a cause of happiness. They practice diligence as a cause of happiness. And so they're mainly always creating the right causes, Because having eradicated the causes of suffering, you might as well create the causes for happiness, So you've been very busy, lately. Okay. You have not only been busy eradicating the causes of suffering, but creating the causes of happiness. So you've been very good. We've been very productive. See. But the Vajrayanis would say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be possessing all these things? So Vajrayana says that it's not neither renunciation nor really befriending. That this object, the sentient being, you one time renounce, another time you befriend, is actually empty of inherent existence. So you've been renouncing emptiness, you've been befriending emptiness. from the Vajrayana point of view. In the resultant level, those beings are just illusions. Those beings are basically illusion, as are the sufferings, as are the problems. They are all illusions. So Vajrayana teaching goes straight into the emptiness, wisdom teaching of emptiness. Whereas the Theravada Mahayana is both relative teachings basically going on to the practices of a certain code of conduct that is agreeable to procure, to ensure your safety and harmlessness to other people, helplessness to other people, was the two main practices. Theravada mainly practice harmlessness. Mahayana practice mainly helpfulness. And Vajrayana says, wow, this is very dualistic here. Very dualistic practice. In the end, and then you got to transcend this duality. Because otherwise you get caught into the notion that you helped. I'm the helper. I have so much help. I have helped you so much. You better know this. You get attached to all the helpings you did. You see? So, sure, there are a lot of good people who do good things, but they're not worse by doing good, they're made worse by their attachment to the good they did. So the Vajrayana is a bit concerned about that bit. The attachment to the good helpings you did. You get attached to the deeds you perform in helping. When in reality, it is the thing, it is the object, it is what you did, and you the doer, the object to whom you did, what you did, are all interdependent in origin. This is not inherently existing of anything whatsoever. It's an illusion. So this goes to the teaching of emptiness. So Vajrayana teaching is very little bit, therefore it's called advanced. People of higher intelligence or lowest intelligence will suit Vajrayana, they say. You have to either be so naive or super intelligent to really follow Vajrayana Buddhism. The mediocres don't follow Vajrayana Buddhism. They say that. We'll find out why that might be the case. They say that. So let's look at this path of non-abandonment. In both the Theravada and Mahayana model, one moment you renounce, another Mahayana you made friend with it. Vajrayana is called path of non-abandonment. You don't abandon the objects of desire or objects of hatred, either in the name of renunciation or in the name of helpfulness or harmfulness. You really look at the nature of the object. The nature of the object is appearance concocted by your own perceptions. Other than your perception, if your perception of objects of desire is changeable to objects of love, that means the object itself has nothing in it that truly exists. So object itself is transformable by your choice of perception in either of the two former cases. Why don't you change it totally? Why don't you totally realize the totality of the object? That is emptiness. Now the emptiness is very nihilistic, so Vajrayana Buddhism says the resultant. Result means they are actually divine. The object is desire. Object of desire is divine. Objects of aversion is divine. All have Buddha nature. All sentient beings, whether they have a desire or whether they produce desire in you or aversion to them, they are all Buddha nature. They all have Buddha nature. So they are actually all enlightened ones. They are all enlightened ones. You've got to see what they are in result. In resultant, they are all divine. So the distinctive aspect of Vajrayana Buddhism as a meditation and trainings is that its path of it's therefore purified impure perception, because they say renunciation and transformation of the other kind are both only secondary practices. But very fundamental practice you can do is transform them know them for what they are, rather than change them into something secondary, so that you don't face the first appearance. First or second or third appearance are all secondary appearances. Really, actual appearances themselves are pure light. All beings are light. That's what the whole. All beings are deity. All beings are just light. Why is one light colored by desire? Why is one light colored by love? They're all divine, not different from you. That's what it says. And this is called path of non-abandonment, because then you're not abandoning any aspect, you're just getting to the crux of the matter. And hence in Vajrayana Buddhism you have to be empowered to think and know and see like that. It says that if you are empowered through a ceremony, then you receive the transmission to think like that and to transform, see the divinity in everyone, light in everyone, and don't focus on the other aspects at all. So in order to be able to do that, you have to be empowered. That's why the empowerment ceremony becomes very important. And in order to, when a person becomes empowered, then he gets given a practice. The practice he does is a meditation called sadhana. And this sadhana practice they're given consists of a tool, of a structure of a practice in which you go to do 4 transformations. The place, that is the way you meditate. So all Vajrayana Buddhist meditations transforms it into a celestial palace. You have to visualize yourself in a celestial sanctuary. All nature of light, and everything is perfect and divine. So that is the main meditation, support of the meditation, called transforming the place. Second is the person. That's your own identity, and all beings that is inside the celestial palace, celestial realm, are all celestial beings. You can't have celestial room and no celestial beings, you know. So you have to occupy them with celestial beings, you know. So everybody is celestial beings, celestial beings. And you can only see celestial beings by celestial beings. They shouldn't have any conflict. They shouldn't have any perception other than that. So you have to believe that everybody is celestial beings too. And the third is the activity. What do you do during the meditation? All the activities should be seen as pure perceptions. Whatever, whoever, whatever they do, they're all pure. They're all pure activities. Pure activities are love, kindness, generosity, and there is nothing but you see that. You see only goodness in what people do. So this idea of transforming the place into celestial realm, people as celestial beings, their deeds as divine and pure activities, this is called result and mayana. You think the highest result right from the very beginning. So you don't wait on creating causes, you think it as a result. And then the perceptions, what it calls these sensual splendors, it's called. Fourth one is not just the place, the person, and also their activities, but their sense perceptions, sense organs, sense objects are all divine. All sense objects has a divine quality, perfect and pure in every sense, whether what you're looking at it, or whether you're listening, or tasting, or smelling and taste. So all Vajrayana meditation must contain these 4 features. These 4 features qualify the resultant Mahayana, because you're thinking yourself in the resultant Buddha, and therefore you place others as equal as yourself, no separate. There's no division. So that's why after when a person receives empowerment, he gets given the sadhana, and then whatever the details of sadhana may vary a bit, but overall instruction is to make these 4 transformations, pure perceptions, pure perceptions. The purpose of doing this pure perception is to eradicate the impure perceptions that we normally have. Now, it is in this context of eradicating impure perception, the word mantrayana is described. Mantra, because we use a lot of prayers and mantras, it's yana, it's called mantrayana. Mantra means protection of the mind from discursive conceptions. Mano tara, meaning the mental constructions. Try to protect yourself from negative mental constructions. When you recite the mantra, the spell bounds you to the extent of not knowing how to have any other mental construction, but you just completely become, you are completely transfixed, so to speak, to see all as a celestial palace, all beings enlightened ones, and all as pure activities. And so the mantra has a power to bring your mind to be in a particular wavelength, so that it couldn't go to any of the other negative thoughts and mentalities. So therefore it's called Mantrayana. The why is that we are bound by bad conceptions. We need to liberate from the bad conceptions. We need to replace the bad conception by pure conceptions. When we see each other as a doll, we act in front of each other as a doll. When we see each other as a people, we will behave like a people. But when we see each other as a divine, we act as a divine. so we have to train that we are in divine realm, and therefore this whole idea is you will be liberated from lower conceptions of yourself being ordinary or someone being objects of jealousy or this. When you have that, you are bound by your conceptions. So you have to instead conceive everything being pure. So in order to release the bad conceptions of us as this self with a history, with a name, with certain things, instead of remembering these bad conceptions, these are just bad thoughts. Went one too many times, entertained one too many times, and we became that. But actually we are Buddhas. We are light, and others are good. And if we ask them that you are good, they act like good. But if we don't call them good, and they don't know what to do. If we call them chicken brain, they will act like chicken brain, you know. So we should call each other Manjushri. Everybody will act like Manjushri. Or a Bodhisattva, or a Tara. You know? So we have to learn to develop this good conception of each other. So Mantrayana means you develop this concept that protects your mind. Mano means mind, Tara means protection. Your mind needs to be protected from bad conceptions. So meditation is a protection. It's a refuge. It's a practice where your mind is protected from bad conception. That's why we paint like a celestial palace, even an L-shaped room, you know. We try to make it square. And rainbow tints and beautiful smells and all the rest. You know? You got to do that again and again and again. Amazing. Power of suggestion is quite amazing. See, we have to suggest one too many times, and you have to be suggested many times, and then that become good conception. Then the bad conception slowly drops away, and you're no longer bound by the thinking that you have an aggressive friend or mother or father or a boss. You don't think like that. You should think he's a responsible boss. He's a Manjushri. He's a Manjushri. He's my boss. He's so intelligent. He knows all my faults. So instead of thinking he's bossy and he's nitpicking, you really think, oh, he's really good. He's intelligent. He knows all my faults and he tells them. So helpful. See, your conception of your boss will change, you know. To someone you are totally reliable to, you are answerable to, and who always thinks before you and shows you, and then your conception of your boss is completely transformed into the highest positive level that you can bring him to. So this is called Mantrayana. It's Vajrayana. It's called Mantrayana. We were talking Mantrayana. And other term is called Vajrayana. They say Vajrayana means vehicle, because vehicle that takes you from this to that place and no longer allows you to stay in the same place is good vehicle, isn't it? So if you follow a vehicle, it will take you to a place of destination. You will not stay with the place from where you're sending from, going from. So if you follow the vehicle, it is called Vajrayana, meaning yana, it has a meaning of, whether it's Mahayana or Theravada, it has a function of delivering you from this to that. This, from where it's trying to take you, is from suffering, from darkness, from samsara. And where it's trying to take you to is bliss, nirvana, is devoid of suffering, and light. That's what it's. So either of those three paths, vehicle you follow, they all have same purpose, to take us to freedom from suffering, freedom from darkness, freedom from sorrow, to a place that is devoid, a state of mind that is devoid of these things. Now, when we say Vajrayana, the word Vajra has a meaning of indestructibility, and therefore you become only Vajrayanist once you receive the three Vajras during empowerment. Three Vajras means Vajra of the holy body, Vajra of the holy speech, Vajra of holy mind. That means bad conception of your body, speech, mind. Bad conception of your body is thinking you're an ordinary person. So once you become empowered as a Manjushri, you think of yourself physically as a Manjushri. And bad conception of your speech and what people say as ordinary language is bad conception. But once you receive empowerment, you should hear all as mantras, all as a sacred sound. All as a sacred sound. If you can do that, then your speech has become Vajrad. And then your mind, that is usually sad or hurt or upset, once you receive empowerment, you fill with love and compassion, joy, the wisdom, and tolerance. And when your mind is completely sort of made indestructible, to have kindness, indestructible, stay wise or generous or compassionate or forgiving. So the person who has received a Vajrayana empowerment is a Vajrayanist. Is a Vajrayanist. Because he was told during the empowerment what went through, that his ordinary conception or bad conception of his identity as a physical body is now light. His name is called this the divine. He's given a mantra to bless his speech and hold his audio consciousness. And he is given wisdom teachings during the empowerment to think of all of his thoughts as wisdom and emptiness. These two are synonymous, wisdom and emptiness. If you can't understand emptiness, think of it as wisdom. Once you think you have got a lot of wisdom, think of it as emptiness. Very good. It goes very well. You should think, I've got a lot of wisdom, but it's called emptiness. It's very good for you. So when you can remember these three Vajras, Vajra of body, speech, mind, ever since you receive this Vajrayana empowerment, then you have the practice to do, the sadhana to do, during which, and even outside your practice sessions, post-meditation, you try to see all forms as the deity, the being, the pure aspect of everyone. Everybody is Manjushri, for instance. If you receive Manjushri empowerment, you see everyone as Manjushri. You know, even the person that is junior and just joined yesterday in the office is Manjushri. Not just your boss. You know. They're just Manjushri in different positions. You should try to think like that sometimes. Let's try to think like that, and your perception changes. The amazing thing is, you straight away don't see them as the same thing, because otherwise we have this fixated view of who is who and what is he. It's a very destructive and bad conception. So we are trying to destroy these bad conception by remembering mantra and practices. In doing so, what happens is, so Vajrayana is meaning, by practicing these, you are being able to understand Vajra means indestructible, the diamondness in everyone, the diamond being in everyone, which means preciousness in everyone. Everybody is precious. Everybody is precious. There's no one more precious than anybody. If there is one thing that is precious, it's to make others precious, isn't it? It's not to excel yourself among non-precious things. So what's the benefit of that? making everybody precious. So the Vajra means diamond. Diamond is precious. Everybody is precious. Everybody is precious because everybody causes you to develop this quality in you from whatever their capacity is as. And so Vajrayana always therefore see the goodness in everyone. It try to protect yourself from bad conceptions, remember? Always try to see the preciousness of the person, you know. Even someone is screaming and yelling and abusing you, just remember he's some good things. Gosh, I don't keep forgetting he's good. Yes, he's kind quite a lot of time. Just not now, that's the whole difference. You're very kind. He's actually, he's Manjushri. He's attacking my ego. It's very good. He's very good. He's holding the sword of wisdom to chastise me into pieces. My wrong conceptions are really obvious in his mind. Here it is. You see what I mean? So your mind becomes very, very agreeable to see the precious things in every situation. You always make the best out of worst situations if you're in a Vajrayanist mood. Because everywhere is celestial beings. And you hardly have anybody who can cause trouble. And because of that, you're totally deified. You're completely divined. You know, Vajrayana means it's divine. You know, everything is. That's why, and we can't keep any wall space empty. We have to fill them up with tankas, just so that fill them up with tankas, and sometimes double tankas. just put them all over the place. So just keep seeing them. Who's this? This is such and this. To the extent we can forget the ego for a change. You know? To the extent that the ego is just an illusion. We are all divine, we are all good, we all have that opportunity. So the Vajrayana makes because it's a practice to do with pure perceptions, everything is pure perceptions. It's not something you have got to eradicate and change. Everybody, you've got to remember what the end result in essence. In essence, everybody has light. Like seeing the good in everyone, God in everyone. As that would be really good if the one God doesn't mind. That he would just give little culture in everybody and make everybody gods. Oh, that would be so useful. Very useful. It wouldn't demean the God. It will probably universalize the God in many. So in Buddhism, there's so many Vajrayana Buddhism. There's so many Buddhas, so many Bodhisattvas for everything. If you want a wealth, come for it. You practice wealth deity. Buddhas will come for wealth deity. If your ego likes it, well, just practice wealth deity. If you want a long life for the no self to live long, practice Amitayus. No self to live long, very good one. And by the time when people get all these practices, nothing is denied, and all your desires are not rejected, but asked to practice. So hence Vajrayana path is sometimes called path of non-abandonment, because it doesn't see desire as something to be abandoned. Desire has to be understood. If you understand poison, it can turn into medicine. There is no medicine in medicine, even it's medicine. If you don't understand medicine, it can turn into poison. So if you understand the suchness of poison, if you know the actual chemical components of the poisonness of the poison, then part of that could be used for medicine. So it's not knowing the suchness of the poison or medicine that can make us have overdosage of medicine. Why should medicine make you people die? Because we didn't understand the correct components and what does it. So if you understand desire, that's why when one of the analogies or stories told about Vajrayana Buddhism is that there was a king called King Indrabhuti. This is an ancient Indian, Swat Valley, modern Pakistan, trouble spot. And when he was one day sitting and having a sunshine or sitting on the palace roof with some minister, he saw these monks flying. All these people flying, holding the robes. He asked who these might be. And his minister said, oh, these are the disciples of Siddhartha Gautama, who recently became enlightened, and all his disciples reach state called Arhatship, and they can all fly. And so they must be on their way to afternoon sort of excursion. Someone must have invited them to be going. And then the king said, can anybody invite it? They say, yes, you can invite it, He says, I have to send some messengers or what? It will take a long time to get the messengers to and get the reply back. They say, no, they're omniscient. They'll know you're inviting. So if you invite them, they'll come anytime. And the king couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that is the case. Anyway, the ministers encouraged him to do a special invocation. Get up on the roof and recite this verse and hold a couple of sticks of incense and then recite this invitation as you would send a card to somebody, without having to leak a stamp. You just burn the incense. and the king did that, and all of a sudden all the Buddhas and his disciples arrive on the roof. Tok, 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 tok. He couldn't believe so many of them. He thought he was inviting just a Buddha, And here arrives this huge entourage of flying monks. All arrive on his roof, and he couldn't believe his eyes. And then finally the Buddha, he thought the first monk was Buddha, second monk was, no, I'm just a disciple. I'm just a disciple. Lord is coming, After everybody landed, the last Buddha arrived, and he couldn't just say anything because the majesty of the Buddha's presence was so overpowering. He definitely knew this was the Buddha. But then when he looked at all, everybody sit around, he can see all the monks and the Buddha there. He said, they're all monks, they have renunciated, they all became this by being able to renounce everything. Then the king requested a teaching. King requested teaching for him. He was very intelligent. First the Buddha said that you have to renounce all the sensorial qualities that you attach to, and then only you can follow the path. Then the king was very intelligent. He said, surely if he's enlightened one, there must be something for people like me who are attached to sensorial qualities. Otherwise he's not enlightened one, And the Buddha said, yes, there is, you as a king who has ministers, who is subject, who has affairs of the country and people to look. You don't need to, renounce. You don't need to renounce worldly pursuits of these things. You renounce the impure perceptions. That'll do. And so saying, he gave the Guhya Samanja empowerment, quickly created a mandala and admitted the king into the empowerment ceremony and told him what he has to renounce is not home or people, but rather the impure perceptions. Impure perception of whoever that might be. And then, of course, King Indrabhuti, during that very ceremony, he became enlightened. And then the whole concept of Vajrayana Buddhism spread through many Indian esoteric adepts like King Indrabhuti, Padmasambhava, Mahasiddha Virupa, Naropa, Tilopa, all 84 great adepts of India, who many of them were formerly monastics, or hunters, or cobblers, fishermen, or they came from any background. They were not necessarily some renunciate, they were renunciate too, but people of all background came to the Vajrayana and admitted into the path, and then became disciples. And then these all 84 siddhas, or saints in particular, anybody who is interested in Vajrayana Buddhism need to know a little bit about the life of these Mahasiddhas. Virupa is one of them. Naropa is another, and Nagarjuna or others are both as a as a philosopher as well as esoteric adepts. So all these practitioners have varying degrees of professions, and each of them maintain their professions. You know, Tilopa was a good fisherman and always lived on fish, and others were hunters. Others were doing all sorts of varying degrees of professions that society may not even allow them to do. But without necessarily changing and abandoning them, they were asked to change the perceptions. They were asked to change the perceptions, and then they followed. So all the adepts are called siddhas. Siddhas are two: ordinary siddhas and mahasiddhas. Means saints and great saints. Great saints. These are all great saints. These great saints are called siddhas, and if they accomplish the siddhas, if they accomplish, the accomplishment of theirs go siddhis, and the one who attained the siddhis go siddhas. And they are great attainers, so mahasiddhas. But until they attain the siddhas, they practice sadhanas. Yeah. So their daily practice is sadhana, and a person who practices daily sadhana is called sadhaka. So this is a practitioner of the sadhanas. So to practice the sadhanas and become a sadhaka, you have to be chela. Chela means the disciple who received the empowerment. So one who receives the empowerment and then get given the sadhana. If you haven't received the sadhana, means you haven't received empowerment, and then you couldn't really practice Vajrayana Buddhism. So for a person to practice Vajrayana Buddhism, eventually, after a little bit of reading and study, one who is enticed to practice Vajrayana, one needs to receive empowerment. Empowerment is abhisheka, which means sprinkling. You need to be watered. You need to be baptized. You can call baptized. We don't call baptize. We call you have to be watered. Because otherwise a bit drought down there. There's a drought, it's a bit dry there. The seed is there, but it hasn't got the moisture and the soil and the water. So you from the day you receive the empowerment, and then you get the empowerment ceremony usually have a little bit of ceremony that sprinkles water on you, and you either drink it or wet on your crown, and then from that day you have been watered. You have been given the receiving the transmission. And then when a person who receives that and recites the daily mantra, simple really mantra, or do a major sadhana, when a person keeps doing that, that practitioner is called tantrayanist. Tantra means continuity. The lineage is very important in Vajrayana. You have to receive the transmission that is not broken transmission, and the unbroken transmission is called continuous. That continuous is Tantra. Tantra means continuity. The lineage of the practice is living tradition, and therefore you must have received the living tradition. Rather like a loom. Tan means loom. The loom must be not broken. Loom is not just the frame of the wood, but it's actually the strings, isn't it? All the thing. So without all the strings on which you can weave it on, you couldn't weave it continuously. Yeah? So the fact that you can weave is because there's a loom. So each and every one of us has this loom of Buddha nature. Everybody got a Buddha nature, but they need to be connected. They need to be connected to the Tra. Tra means the conception that protects you from that impure perception. So you start adopting the pure conception of everything as divine. If you maintain that pure conception, everything as a divine, everything is good, see nothing bad in anything, always try to see the goodness in things, you try to train your mind to do that, then you are actually maintaining the transmission of the teachings. Always see there's something good in whatever's happening, and you will always see that. And that is the Vajra. That is the indestructible, and that will continue to wire, acculturate your mind to think like that. Even when somebody yells at you, you can hear that there's a mantra. Oh, there's a loud mantra there. Thanks for that. If somebody screams at you, you can hear that as a mantra. It's a bit loud, but you can change the volume a bit. So even there's a traffic noise, you don't get annoyed. It's a mantra. You can always see the goodness in it. You can always transform into something useful. Prevent yourself from bad conception and turn into good conception. When you're able to do that regularly, daily, it's possible because you've been doing the sadhana. Because you've been doing the daily sadhana, this is like the daily kind of commitment practice, then it makes yourself very adherent. You become adherent to the wisdom teaching that everything, think the positive things of everything. And that practitioner becomes then Tantrayanist. Tantra means continuity. Tra means continuity of what? Continuity of keeping his mind in good conception, away from the bad conceptions. Yeah? Away from the bad conception as seeing, hearing, thinking, everything. Not bad conception, but good conception. Tantrayanist. Therefore, they don't see anything or hear anything, think anything other than good conception. Mahasiddha Virupa, when in this mood, he kept drinking, he kept drinking. He didn't know it's alcohol, it was blissful. He never knew it was alcohol. He thought it was blissful. He was drinking bliss. Who wanted to stop bliss? He kept drinking and drinking and drinking. And then he totally excelled in this practice and transcended. So Tantra transcends duality. Idea of practice of Tantra transcends duality of clean and unclean, bad and good, all dualities. And often, therefore, tantric depiction of things has very forms people don't understand. They actually they talk about eating, drinking nectars, and to them every form is good, whether it's solid or running. Everything is good. Nectar. Nectar. Transform the view, please. And if you don't transform the view, you don't transform the view, you always have impure perception. So your mind will be. Now, in order to change your perception like that, you've got to train your mind a lot. And you've got to train so that your normal karmic and the conceptual habits that has been acquired from some time is eliminated by these preliminary practices. So in order for you to be able to tune yourself and stay in that tunement of the tantric perception, you need to do these preliminary practices. And these preliminary practices get rid of the gross karma and affliction that has conceptually bound your mind from a very long time ago, and so all this gross karma and affliction has to be purified by preliminary practices. So all the sadhanas has a preliminary component in the sadhana, main body of the day meditation, and a conclusion. So each of the sadhana, first part of the practice always deals with eradicating these obscurations of karma, knowledge and affliction. Karma and afflictions counted as gross, knowledge is the subtle. When you are able to eradicate these two obscurations, then you develop two accumulations, merit and wisdom. When you have accomplished these two accumulations, merit and wisdom, then you are entitled. Your moral authority, your emotional confidence will make you to see everything as pure. You're not imitating it, you're not pretending it, you're actually seeing it for what it is. You're seeing it as it is. You're not trying to exaggerate or trying to cover. You are actually seeing the reality as it is. That's why I call Vajrayanist or resultant Mayanist. Some people call it Parivartanayana. Parivartan means transformation. You just transform your perceptions. If you can change your mind, I mean, you can change your way of thinking about something. And some people, when we talk about did you have a change of mind, they say no, it means you're still stuck, you know. And if you change your mind, yeah, the situation just evolved, and you're no longer in that place or time anymore. You have moved on. So Vajrayana practice promotes swift path. And sometimes Vajrayana path is called swift path, because you can achieve enlightenment in one very lifetime for the person of sharpest faculties. And it's a maximum, even if you're the dullest faculty, it'll take only 16 lifetimes. The other people who don't follow Vajrayana, it takes in Mahayana 3 uncountable eons. Would you believe it? Uncountable ones, and 3 of them. One would be too much, you know. One would be too much, and 3 of them you have to practice. You have to practice perfection. You have to practice generosity. You have to practice kindness. You have to please other people. You have to try to bribe them. All sorts of things. You know. I mean, I'm sure you've been all bribing all your life, but just doesn't work, is it? And one moment they're happy, another moment they're no longer happy. They can't. So the Vajrayana sometimes called swift path. Swift path because people of sharp intelligence can really understand why it is so. Others would not know that this is what we mean. People of sharper faculty, and they have to have good karma and merit that prepares them to have the right aptitude to follow the teachings. So with this initial introduction tonight, we will be looking over the next 7 or 8 weeks we have, that on each of the nights we will look more specifically into the various facets of Vajrayana Buddhism and its practices, its traditions, its teachings, its trainings, its meditations, to do with this life or the death, or the life after Bardo, between the death and the next life called Bardo, and how various aspects of these practices, such as the rituals, such as the empowerment ceremony, and various aspects of the practice will give you a fairly, what I call, much focus, specifically focus on special aspect of Vajrayana practices that will include the concepts of deity yoga. Who are the deities? Are they external gods? Or if not, why are they what they are? And how can we do the practice? How does this practice work and help us? And how can we help other people through the Vajrayana deity yoga practices, through our meditation, in terms of eradicating and nullifying our karma, affliction. Lots of people got, while Vajrayana practice is for the highest resultant practices, but Vajrayana practice is very down to earth. It's called Tammang. It's called multitude of skillful means. It will have many skillful means suited for people of many or various aptitudes and predisposition, and it is called it's called not difficult path. Vajrayana is not difficult path. You don't have to practice asceticism. You don't have to renounce comfortable homes. You have to make them more comfortable and try to make divine. Try to make it divine homes. I mean, it's not difficult because you don't have to practice asceticism simply for the sake of asceticism. If you understood the gist of the teachings, you don't have to go through having to renounce legs or bodies or things for other sake of sentient beings, because there are no legs, there are no bodies that you need to renounce. So you don't have to say, I sacrifice my leg for you and this is all I get, type of thing. You know, you don't have to renounce anything, because the things that you think you are is not what they are, what they appear to be. You are divine, you know. When you are able to do that, tamankawa me batang, meaning many skillful means, and not so difficult. Other people find Buddhist practice very difficult. They have to observe silence. They have to observe not eating this, not doing this, not playing music. In Vajrayana we play all the music. So we play all the dramas. We put on all the costumes, dance like this. Have you seen the Tibetan Lama dance called Lama dance? And, I mean, why you dance if you can't be Lama? When you're in the Vajrayana, you can be anything as well as dance. Be the goddess of 16 kinds. Multiply yourself to appease the whole world that is depressed by your manifestation of goddesses. And so Vajrayana, it is very distinct from the monastic practices. But having said that, it is not contrary to monastic practices, and it's exactly the same. It's just a different approach. So it doesn't mean that the Vajrayana practices try to destroy or undermine monastic practices. That's not the case. People who are suited to the mentality of monastic practices, they should practice Vajrayana Buddhism as an augmentation of the practice of the monasticism, not as that which will undermine. When one is unskillful, of course that can happen with anything. It doesn't have to be with the Vajrayana. So that's why, and people of sharp intelligence can understand the design, the vision, and the breadth of Vajrayana practices. And it is therefore one needs to adhere and follow the path. And to do that, one needs to be empowered. And if one is not empowered, then you could not do the particular practices. So what we will have is, you will look at the role of empowerment, what type of empowerments there are, and how do you go about receiving them, and what happens during the empowerment, what as a result of you do. And so we'll be able to look at many specific aspects of these Vajrayana practices during these next few weeks.